want to remind you of the collect we just heard. Grant, O merciful God, that your church, being gathered together in unity by your Holy Spirit, may show forth your power among all peoples. May show forth your power. Let's talk about power this morning. I have to admit to you, I've always liked power. When I was young, it was the power that you found in a car. And I got in a little bit of trouble as a teenager because of my love for power in a car. And we have some young people here, so I'm not going to say more about that because I don't want to give anybody any ideas. But let's fast forward. At age 19, I joined the Navy and became a jet engine mechanic. To me, a jet engine was the symbol of power. It's such a simple machine if you think about it. The air goes in the front, is compressed by compressor vanes, and then it gets in the ignition chamber. You dump in a bunch of fuel, throw in a spark, it explodes, and the explosion out the back is what gives the vehicle acceleration. We had T-58 turboshaft engines. I was on the helicopter squadron. So the difference with a turboshaft engine was just the same. You suck in air, compress it, dump a bunch of fuel, blow it up, and shoot it out the back. But we had a turbine wheel on the back. And that turbine wheel is where we got the power through the transmission to turn that big rotor. Amazing machines, they really are. I lost a little bit of hearing because sometimes, especially when we just installed one, you had to climb up on the engine while it was running to check for leaks. And I probably should have worn more than just Mickey Mouse ears when I was climbing around on those engines, because I'm pretty sure that's where I lost some of my hearing. So after 4 years of doing that, I went into civil service as a heavy equipment mechanic. We worked on the dock cranes at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. Now there was an engine. Atlas Imperial engines, bigger than the altar, huge, pistons this big around. Amazing stuff. And I was fascinated by it. But after about 6 years of being a mechanic, I realized that I was never going to be a very good mechanic because I took shortcuts. I just wanted to get the thing running again so I could drive it. I didn't want to fix machines, I wanted to run machines. So I quit trying to be a mechanic. I could tell from the habits the old timers had that I was never going to be a good one anyway. And I got a job driving a forklift for a freight consolidation outfit. The freight came in that morning, and we sent it out that afternoon into truckloads, 50 trucks a day. We couldn't go home until all the trucks were loaded, so they let us drive those forklifts as fast as we wanted. And so a lot of days it felt like I was on an amusement park ride, and I was getting paid to do it. It was a great job. I did it for 8 years, driving a forklift. I've always liked power. I really have. But as I got older, I got interested in other forms of power, not just engines, although I'm still kind of fascinated by engines. But there's other forms. The power that a social institution might have, or the power that an individual might have over a crowd of people. I find that these power dynamics among people interesting, although I do still like the feel of taking the motorcycle for a ride, and when no one's around, playing with that type of power. But let's talk about the power dynamics among people just a little bit. In today's story of Jesus healing the crippled woman, who in that story had the power? Well, of course, we'd say right away, obviously Jesus had the power because he was the one who did the healing. But the rabbi thought he had the power to tell Jesus, no, you can't do healings on the Sabbath. In the end, one way to read the story is it's a debate between two rabbis, Jesus and the rabbi of the synagogue. And in the end, we could say that Jesus won the argument because in the end, he had more juice, he had more power than the other rabbi. Is that really what this story is all about? Or is there a little bit more to it than that? I think it is a story about power, but maybe not power in the way that we think of it. The Greek term that's usually translated as authority is exousia. And exousia is a rather complex term. It stands for a lot of things. Yes, it can stand for power. It can stand for control. It can stand for things like that. But also, it speaks of the one who has mastery over a subject will be the one with authority. Or the person who has the most liberty, the most freedom, will be the one with authority. If you take all the different definitions for this idea, this Greek concept, exousia, and you try to fit them all together, what you come up with is exousia, or authority, or power, would be the one who has the most freedom to act in any given situation. Power, authority is the freedom to act. Jesus, as the Son of God, speaks and acts with exousia, with authority. He has the most freedom to act. And as we faithfully follow him, we also receive, to a more limited degree, this same exousia, this same freedom to act. As a matter of fact, one way to understand the mission of Jesus is that he was all about giving everyone this freedom to act, this exousia. We might want to recall the words Jesus used to proclaim the beginning of his earthly ministry. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, to comfort all who mourn. One way Jesus described what he was doing was that he had come to set the captives free. And that's exactly what he does in today's story. This crippled woman has the least amount of power at the beginning of the story, the least authority, the least freedom. Not only was she a woman in a patriarchal society, but she was also crippled. Yet she is the one that Jesus calls. Isn't that the way of Jesus? He calls out the least of those in every setting. He welcomes the children, the sick, the troubled, those worn down by their heavy burdens. He has a clear bias for the powerless. It is those held captive by the troubles and evils of this world that he seeks out. And he seeks them out in order to set them free. So he stretches out his hand and sets the woman free. And she immediately stands up tall. No longer is she one who endures great pain with every step and hides in the back of the crowd to avoid ridicule. She is restored to what she always was intended to be, a daughter of Abraham. Now, in the meantime, the leader of the synagogue is going on and on about the rules of the Sabbath. In his mind, Jesus did not have the power. Jesus did not have the freedom to act. Jesus was not supposed to perform that healing. Jesus points out that it was a loosening of that which was bound, an act of setting the woman free, not some kind of traditional healing that was going on. So anyway, the two men are debating back and forth. And while that's going on, what is the woman doing? When Jesus laid his hands on her, immediately she stood up straight and began praising God. She is now set free to act in any way she feels is fitting for that moment. And so, what does she do? This daughter of Abraham begins to praise God. Now, some of you are going to disagree with what I'm going to say next, and that's okay if you do, I don't mind. I believe that out of all the creatures here on earth, humans are the only species who are conscious of God. Now, if you want to think your cat has a relationship with God, that's fine with me. If you want to think your dog has a relationship, that's fine with me. And maybe they do, I don't know. But that's not the way that I see things. And when those moments when I can finally be quiet and silent and just be in awe of creation, what forms on my lips are words of praise for God. And sometimes when I'm praising God, I think to myself that I'm giving voice to a silent creation who would also be praising God if they could. And maybe as a human being, that's one of the reasons I'm here on this earth, is to offer God praise on behalf of his silent creation. I think that's kind of an important thing to be doing. But again, maybe your dog or your cat praises God too. I don't know. Maybe when a dog howls, that's praising God in some way. I don't know. It could be. It could be. So, back to the question. Who has the power in this story? In the end, I think it is that daughter of Abraham who expresses her authority, who expresses her freedom to act by spontaneously breaking out in praise of God, while the men continue to debate. Do you long to be set free from the troubles and infirmities that bind you? Do you yearn to reclaim your authority as the daughters and sons of God? Let God unloosen those ropes that bind you. Allow the healing power of God's love to set you free. Then together, may we join our voices with that daughter of Abraham and offer our praise and thanksgivings